Hi there, this is Patrick. It is September 7th, and it is the third day of Remembering the Solid Road, and this video is the second part of the 8-part series of Remembering the Solid Road Youth Ministry. Today, got another early start, and wondering what I was going to talk about today. What things were I going to bring up to remembrance? Yesterday was one of the two I would call silent days of the whole episode, the whole ordeal. And yesterday we had a church fair here at school, and I remember the church fair very vividly last year when all this was about to happen. I remember over here in the courtyard, we have a bunch of booths of a bunch of churches, and it's for students who have come from out of town, out of state, and are looking for a home church, a place to get connected. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing that this school offers. Last year, however, I was on my high horse. I walked around, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm a licensed minister. I have a job in a church. I'm paid. I don't need this. And in a couple days, on the 9th, I was humbled. I was brought down from that high horse. So it was this year in the church fair, I walked around with a different perspective. I actually walked around. I interacted with people, people from other churches. I had a great time. Even though I know that I will not be attending any one of them, because I am walking the path which Yahweh has set me on, to preach the gospel, the faith first delivered to the saints, the gospel of the kingdom which Yeshua preached, calling people back to the Hebraic roots of our faith, to have a fellowship, a gathering away from the structures, the rules and regulations and the denominations of man, but to fellowship in His name. So even though I know I won't be attending any of the churches that were here, I still had a great time seeing them, meeting them, fellowship with them, and praying for them as they do what they are doing in where they are at. So we ended the last video with me getting a phone call. It was late at night, so I got a phone call and didn't answer. And yesterday, which was the 8th, was Tuesday. And Tuesdays were normally the days where we would have staff meeting at the church. That staff meeting was canceled. It was canceled. And I got phone calls, I got texts, and then finally I got email. Email was how I responded to the leadership. And in that email I said that this was a very serious matter. And at that point, I knew that this was a whole lot more than a discontent with what I wrote. That this was something that was going to have larger effect. That was going to affect more people. That it was not just going to be between me and the leadership, but now it was going to affect the whole church. So I wrote back and I said Thursday would be the best day. Thursday would be the day where I can meet. When I look back, I did not know I was picking the day where it would all end for me. I did not know that. I thought it was going to be a time where I would go in and clear things up. But it would be the last time I stepped in as the youth pastor of New Hope, or even a member of New Hope. At that point, I knew that I had to start clearing some things up. That night, we had a gathering with one of the groups that I was a part of. It was the young adults group. And it was a group of my dear friends. We got together weekly, and we had a great time. We would do the study, but also we would fellowship, we would eat, we would go swimming, play basketball. We would just do a variety of different things. So I got there that Wednesday night with a heavy heart. And my friend Daniel was with me. He stuck with me the whole time. He was right there with me. And at the end of the study, we take prayer requests, which is common among small groups. And my prayer request was them to pray for me because I knew something was going to happen. I asked them if they read what I wrote. Because I was on Facebook, they had access to it. And they said, yeah, we read it. And they all agreed with what I wrote. Some of them, in love, confronted me on the method in which I posted it. Online, on Facebook. And I admit that was not the wisest thing to do. Yet at the point that I was at, I was fed up. I was at my breaking point. So let it be a lesson to not act based on emotion, but to act in wisdom. So they're telling me all this. I'm asking, and I asked them to pray for me because I don't know. I knew what was going to happen, but I just couldn't tell them right away. I couldn't bring that news to them. So when I left knowing that was going to be the last time. That was going to be the last time I can get together with them. Said bye. I gave them all hugs. I thanked them for praying for me. And then for the next couple days, I would get phone calls and text messages and Facebook messages with encouragement and prayer. Hey, we're praying for you. We love you. We know that God is with you and will be with you during this time. I will get all of these things. And it was during that time which we were the closest. We were the closest we've ever been was during that time. In a couple days, that will all change. The ones who once stuck with me in the whirlwind of events did not know what to do. So, unfortunately, I ended up in isolation. I ended up with no one. In my darkest moments, those who were closest to me deserted me. The only one who was left was Daniel. He stuck with me. In time, all the other ones, we all became great friends again. Relationships were mended, and everything was forgotten. In a sense that I embrace them. I welcome them back. I love them, and they were the first group of people that I was able to open up to for a while. So they came. All of the relationships were mended, and there are no hard feelings. There were no hard feelings at all. I understand what was going on. Just the mental anguish, the emotions running wild. I understand all that happened. And those relationships that were broken up, that were dispersed, they're coming back together. They're coming back together. Not all of them have come back together, but I know they will. Because when I was left in isolation without anyone, I got to get reintroduced to God. This time with His name, Yahweh. And I can't go back. I cannot go back to just saying God or the Lord. I can't. I love His name. I love Him. I love His name so much that I just love saying it. I love to dwell on His name. I like to look at His name, draw His name. It's a love, an intimacy with the Father that I have not known since that isolation. When all of the people ran away from me, Yahweh ran to me, and He embraced me. Let this be an encouragement to you. If you are of a small group, and there's someone you know who is in trouble, who's spiritually in trouble, or maybe is being questioned by the leadership, or I don't know. It could be any situation. But my encouragement to you is to love them, to encourage them, to pray for them, to embrace them, not to cast them out, especially in their darkest moment. That's what happened to me. Luckily, my faith was able to stand that isolation. But I have seen examples before of people being cast out and them walking away, losing their faith. And do not have that be in your hands, on your hands. You do everything you can. And if they walk away, that's them. But that act of clearing up, what I just said, to the leadership, it came off as me recruiting others for my movement, or to overthrow the church. Seek first to understand before being understood. Get all the information. Hear every side. Don't just bank on your own interpretation of the situation. It was because of that, the interpretation of the situation would lead to the hurt of so many more. I was the first one, but in the upcoming days, there are a lot more that get hurt. And it breaks my heart to still see the condition which the fellowship is in. So, don't just take secondhand information, but get to the source. And do not cast anyone out in their darkest hour, especially when they need you the most. Because it can be seriously damaging to that person. Tomorrow was the hardest, where I had to give my final address to the youth. And that in itself brought a lot of heat. Just because I talked to the small group, I got a very lovely email accusing me of many things. I still have that email. I will not read it. It's for me. But I was no longer being looked at as Patrick. I was now starting to be looked at as a monster. And by the end of this time, that's exactly how I felt. A monster that New Hope needed protecting from. So, this is Patrick, and I will see you tomorrow when I give my final address to the Solid Road Youth Ministry.